Morning.
How
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm okay.
Okay, that's good. Can you tell me about this new show? What made you want to bring back the Lenny Henry Show after all this time?
Well, the last television series that I did was in the 2000s, like 2006 or something, and it's 2020 now. And quite a lot of millennials have no idea who I am. They think I'm big and small, or elephant on Tinga Tinga Tails, or sporty robot on Little Robot. So I thought, well, I should just do something that reminds them of the things I do or can do. And the nice thing was it coincided with the head of comedy at Radio 4 said, you should do another sketch show. What the hell are you doing all this drama? And I said, okay, well, let's do it, because I've just done Doctor Who and things like that. And I've been working on new stand-up with a guy called Max Davis, writing new material and laughing a lot. And I think that if you're in a position where you're laughing a lot, the possibility of doing a sketch show isn't very far away, because you're laughing at all the ridiculous things that are happening in your life, the way people are, the way people are saying where you're from, the way people are denying slavery and the Holocaust, the way people are denying climate change, the way people are mansplaining things to all the women, the way people are black-splaining things to all the black people. It just meant that, and perhaps being, a person of a certain age now, there's less of the worry of, oh, I better not say that. You know, back in the day, there was always a thing of, well, I better not say that because I don't upset people. But now, people just seem to be able to take it. They seem to be able to understand that we have a right, and we are amenable to teasing. We don't mind being teased, but we also have the capability, because we've been here since Windrush times and before, we have the capability now to tease back. So we can tease people as well as be teased. We are no longer just the butt of the joke, we are the maker of the joke. And I think that's a really powerful thing. And I wanted to experience what that was like, to be able to make jokes where I wasn't just the butt of the joke, but I was also the guy making the joke about other types of people, as other types of thing. So there's good things in it. There's lots of superheroes. There's lots of there's lots of material about the art of being black in the 21st century, and there's lots of stupid stuff too. Plus, we bring back Delbert Wilkins, who was a DJ in Brixton in the mid 80s, who is now a man of a certain age with kids of his own, and trying to help people get along in this society of stop and search and Black Lives Matter, with his best friend Winston on pirate radio. We've got Deacus, who's a very old guy who came over here just after the Second World War, and he's in an old people's home, and he's making observations about what it's like to be in an old people's home, and to also be a person of color, and what it's like to be all crammed in there together, particularly in a time of lockdown. And there's also um, the idea of what it's like to be a very, very sexy soul singer who used to take a lot of liberties in his music in an age of hashtag Me Too. And so Theophilus P. Wildebeest has had to change his act completely to accommodate what's going on in the world now, in terms of consent, in terms of Me Too, in terms of all of those things. So all his songs have changed. All his chat has changed on stage. He used to be saying very overtly sexy things. Now everything has to be with, as long as it's all right with you. I think one of his songs is called "As Long as It's Okay with You," and we might have to sign a waiver and things like that. So Theo is back. He makes a very fleeting appearance in the series, but it's nice. What's great about it is I've been working with a very diverse group of writers: black, brown, white. And what's really lovely is they're all under 30, a lot of them, and they have an attitude about the kind of thing I should be doing. And I can argue back, I can push back. I can push back if I think something is weak, or if something is a bit kind of bland. I can also push back if I think something's too strong. But what's been great is we've been able to find a balance with all of this stuff. And That's good. I think that's good. And there's been a lot of laughter. We've laughed a lot in the room.
Obviously, because it is comedy, you know, there are a lot of laughs. But I noticed from the first episode, which I've listened to,
Ooh.
that
How
you.
was that for you?
How was it for me? I thought it was great. I think what I was going to say is that even though it's comedy, you've mentioned some of these things already, that you do touch on quite a few serious issues as well.
Yeah, because comedy can do that. You know, when you watch Shakespeare, in the midst of the deepest tragedy, he'll make you laugh because he wants to. It's almost like a tension relief. Oh, thank God, can we laugh about this? And I think within reason, you can laugh about anything.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing you have to remember with comedy is that it's subjective, you know. So some people are going to like it. Some people are going, well, that's not for me. You know, my mother-in-law might not like it. My sister Bev is a born-again Christian. She might not like, you know, there's a whole thing about devil worship in there. She might not like, why are you making that thing about Satan? You know, she might say that. But to me, I think that within reason, and if you've got a good edit button, you can navigate your way through a vast variety of subjects and make people laugh at themselves or at the subject, because we are living in such a bizarre world now. There was a Black Lives Matter march and two white people came out on their lawn, the man had an AK-47 and the woman had a Glock, and black people walking by filming them on their phones like, are you crazy? Now, to me, I'm putting the phone down and running as fast as I can away from two people with a gun. But we were just marching with our phones going, yep, crazy people, and just walking by. You know, we live in a world where that kind of stuff happens to us almost every day. There's a black person being killed every day. And what's interesting about black people per se is that when things get really, really dark, we laugh. Mm-hmm. We start making jokes because, you know, even in the midst of slavery, we were making jokes. There's an expression, don't that take the cake, right? If that don't take the cake, you know what that's from? In slavery, if the house workers wanted to get a nice piece of cake, they would do a little dance. They would do a little dance and they'd do a little step. And it was to please their masters. And they called it, the other slaves called it the cakewalk. And that's where the expression, if that don't take the cake, comes from. So even in the midst of slavery, people were making jokes. So what I think is, in the midst of the lockdown, in the midst of Corona, there was a brilliant dancehall song about the coronavirus. People are dying, you know, and people are making records. So to me, I just think, yeah, I think it's time to use our sense of humor not just as a shield, but as a weapon too.
Some of the serious issues that you obviously present, I would say Windrush. It doesn't actually mention Windrush, but obviously it's about deportations. There's also some research. But on the first one of Windrush, I just wondered, I know it's something that you have explored in your other work, but why was it important for you to include it in this sketch show? Do you feel like it's been something that's been forgotten?
I think it's important to remind people of Windrush all the time, because, you know, there's a real find the lady aspect. You know, the thing with the cards where they say, where's the queen? Where's the queen? And then they flip it over. Oh, you lost all your money. There's a real find the lady aspect with certain issues like Grenfell, like the Windrush betrayal, where they can spin this plate over here and make you forget Grenfell over there. They can spin that plate over there and make you forget that the kids aren't back at school yet. So with Windrush, and there's a few mentions of it throughout the series, it's important that people remember that there's still people who are being sent home. There's still people who are trying to go through this terrible thing of finding their paperwork, where they're saying there's no paperwork for you. There's still people who are having mental health issues because of going through this terrible, terrible situation. So I think it's important to not forget. Mm-hmm. We mustn't forget. And if I can do that with, you know, drama, like in Soon Gone, Windrush Chronicles, or in comedy in this show, I'm going to keep doing it. You need to keep poking people and going, it's still going on, you know. And, you know, I'll make you laugh, but I'll also make you go, oh, okay. Oh, yeah, okay, that's still happening. So it's important.
there's also some of the things you've mentioned already, the where are you really from question, the way that you approach that. And I wonder, obviously it's a very relatable question for a lot of Black people in the UK. As Lenny Henry, as Sir Lenny Henry, is it something that you're still confronted with, and how do you deal with it?
I think we're all confronted with race, issues of race, every single day. You know, my family live in the Midlands and in Ireland and in London, and every day when we talk about microaggressions and macroaggressions. So I think it's, you know, just because I'm Sir Lenny Henry, and by the way, my mum always used to say, you must be careful to draw a line between honours and achievement. So I'm very aware that the knighthood is an honour. And, you know, when I get my own radio show or I get a PhD, that's an achievement. I'm very careful to draw a line between the two things. But we talk about things all the time. People following you around a shop, people holding their purse nearer to them when you're on the tube, people looking at you funny, people, you know, when I went to Ireland, when I went to Australia on tour, people stared at my brother when he went into a pub for a drink. They stared at him openly. You know, I think it's perfectly relevant to talk about look at David Olusoga, McTaggart lecture yesterday. This is a man who's a historian. He's got his own production company. He makes documentaries about Black history. There's David Olusoga talking about mental health issues because of working in a predominantly white society where his skills are not appreciated, and he feels like he's up against the glass ceiling, and he's seen other people who are vastly skilled not being appreciated for the things they can do in their workplace. If David Olusoga can talk about that at the McTaggart lecture, that means there's still work to be done in our society. So I think it's fair play to make jokes about these things because they're going on and they're affecting all of us, whether we're high or whether we're low in society. They're affecting everybody. And there needs to be this sense of uplift, you know. If you're moving up in the world, you've got to bring other people up with you. Otherwise, there's going to be a discrepancy in our society. And it's our responsibility to uplift as much as move forward ourselves.
And one of the other points I wanted to touch on was there is obviously the police stop. And we've seen in recent weeks, months, that there are these high profile incidents where obviously people are now recording them. And I wondered, obviously you have included it as some sort of commentary on those incidents, but what are your thoughts around it? If you've had any recent interactions with the police, what there's
I try not to drive my car. I used to get stopped all the time because I had a nice car. So in the end, I just stopped driving. I get, you know, taxis or get the train because I've been stopped for driving whilst Black. So I think that, you know, it's tiresome. We're all tired of it. And, you know, it's a thing that happens in our world where if you explain it to your white friends, they don't quite understand what you're talking about sometimes, but it happens. And, you know, your friends and your family have to have the talk with you. Well, when they stop you, you need to do this. When they say get out the car, do not have an attitude when they get out. You know, people having to have the talk with you, and it's terrible. It's awful. But these are things we have to live with now. We have to, you know, there's a horrific. I mean, the American videos are awful. I mean, God bless our Black American brothers and sisters because they're going through something now, and I just don't know. You can't really say anything. The police are militarized and they're behaving as if we're the enemy. And there's a bit of that happening in this country too. There's a thing where a guy is telling a Black person to get out the car, and he's shouting, "Get out the car," and it appears as if that guy is mentally ill. And the guy just starts to film the policeman. And then eventually the policeman gets a serrated edged blade out of his car and starts to try and saw through the windscreen of the guy's car. And the guy's filming it and his hand's shaking. And, you know, in a world where this has happened, and in a world where it doesn't feel like there's any kind of, you know, how are people being allowed into the police force when they can lose their temper so quickly and immediately go from 0 to 60 within minutes? How can that happen? So, you know, when that can happen to you when you're out on a date or when you're on your way home from work, this is something we have to start really thinking about seriously. And the government have to really start thinking, is this the right way for our police to be presenting themselves to the general public? What happened to being part of the community, you know? So yeah, I think that's fair game for comedy. In this world of making jokes about dark things, we're absolutely in a place where we can make jokes about that because it's happening. And if comedy is what's happening in the real world, then we're allowed to make jokes about that stuff.
You have made lots of people laugh, countless people throughout your career. I wanted to know, who makes you laugh?
I like all kinds of things. My mum used to make me laugh a lot. My mum used to mispronounce words. So she used to say surfer ticket. Go and get your bird surfer ticket. She used to say flim instead of film. She used to say ridiculous mottos from Jamaica. If your own knife cut you, wipe the blood clean and put it away. What the hell does that mean? What the hell does that mean? If your own knife, she's talking about her children, you know. If your own knife cuts you, wipe the blood off and put it away. Mum, what are you talking about? So my family made me laugh. My sister Bev did a bum call with WhatsApp, and she called all the family. So all the siblings were on this call, and she wasn't talking to us. So we were going, hello, who made this phone call? Who is this? Bev? Bev, are you there? Bev? So that was funny. I like comedians. I like Kevin Hart. I still like Richard Pryor. I love Sarah Cooper's Donald Trump impersonations. She really makes me laugh. She's from Jamaica, you know, and she's very funny. What else do I like? I like Famalam, even though they're in trouble.
They are in trouble, and
why are Famalam in trouble? Tell me.
Well,
they did Jamaican Countdown, innit?
The Jamaican Countdown has caused a very big stir online.
Why?
Even I think the Jamaican High Commissioner has got involved. What are your thoughts on that? Because I
haven't got any thoughts because I haven't seen it.
Oh,
but I know that people are vexed. But what I'll say to you again is that comedy is subjective. Everybody has their own opinion about what's funny. I could say Kevin Hart. You could say Hannah Gadsby. I could say Richard Pryor. You could say Steve Martin. Everybody has a different taste in comedy. Everybody laughs at different things. Not everybody has a sense of humor. Not everybody has a laugh. How many miserable people do you know? I know plenty. Plenty of people who don't get jokes. They sit down, they watch the news, they watch a documentary, they go to bed. Laughter isn't part of their life. So what I think is that we have to account for that. There's always going to be people who get vexed about certain aspects of comedy because not all comedy is for everyone. And I have to say that when you're young and you're in comedy, you know some people are going to get vexed with some of the things you laugh about. But in the end, that's their problem, not yours. And of course, as you get older, you start to think about what are people going to think. But when you're younger, all you think about is what your brethren are going to think. Are my brethren going to like this? Are they going to laugh? Are they going to enjoy it? Oh man, we said that thing in the pub last night about such and such. That's going to be hilarious when we do that on stage. Oh, what? You see that joke about when we got stopped by the police the other day? Oh, wouldn't it be funny if? Because that's all you're thinking about. Wouldn't it be funny if? What would it be like if? And when you're making comedy and you're making your friends laugh, often what wider society thinks is funny slightly goes out the window because you're only thinking about what makes your friends laugh. And that's the bar that you've set for yourself. So, you know, as you get older, you start to think, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that because of such and such. But when you're young, if you're before 30, all you're thinking about is, oh, what? You hear that? That's jokes, man. And you can't wait to put it down on tape or something because it made everybody in the room laugh. It's only when you get to later. I mean, look at Monty Python and the Life of Brian. You know, they upset lots and lots of people, but they stuck to their guns. They were on telly with Malcolm Muggeridge and the Archbishop of Canterbury slagging them off. But now, Life of Brian is seen as a classic of British comedy. But it took a while for people to catch up. And sometimes comedy does that.
I have one last question, which is, this is the first radio version of the Lenny Henry Show. And I've been told it's your first radio sketch show. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And I just wondered why this format now, and how that experience was for you creating, because it was created during lockdown, is that right?
In a lockdown, yes, we'd already talked to Sean at BBC Radio 4, who was fascinated by the, because times change, things rearrange. I was working with Max Davis, and we said it'd be good to do a sketch show together because we're doing all this stand-up comedy, and I didn't know how to do it because I'm not done a comedy show on the television for a while. I've done Rudy's Red Records on the radio. Radio seemed to be very amenable to that. So Sean had said, "Yeah, I'd love to do a sketch show. How are we going to do it?" We made it in Brixton. I said, "What would you?" And it was just like doing the TV show. Who would you have in it? I worked with George Fouracre recently when I did Rogues Gallery on the radio. I said, "Let's get George." Luella Gideon from The Real McCoy, Freya Stark from Lazy Susan, Vass Blackwood from The Delbert Wilkins Show. It was just like doing the TV show, but on the radio. And we did an hour and a half one day, and then we did an hour and a half the other day. We got Lawrence Insula, who's a brilliant musician, to do the music. And we just did it. It was all done within a space of, I'd say, about 3 or 4 weeks. And we got a diverse writer's room. So I did it the way I do my show now. And if I was doing my TV show now, I'd want a diverse writer's room. I'd want a diverse cast. And I'd want to say what the material is. I'd want to be an executive producer. And that's how we did it. And if we're doing it on the TV, I'd do it exactly the same.
For you, obviously, because of where you are in your career and what you've achieved, I'm imagining having that criteria is something that you're able to, see through. But how easy is that for the younger generation of talent that's coming through?
It's not easy. And I think what's great about shows like Famalam and Enterprise is that there's a black creative at the core of it. When you're at the core of it, what people have to remember is that if you've got nothing to lose, you can say anything you want. So you can say, I want to work with this guy, this guy, this guy, and they might argue with you. But if you put your foot down and say, well, I don't want to do it, if you're brave enough to say, I'm not going to do it unless I can have these criteria, then they might just go, just to kind of let you make the thing you want to make the way you want to make it. They might just let you get on with it because they're tired of arguing with you. It's important to argue for your creativity at all times. And I was gaslit into a lot of situations in the early days just because it was just me and there was nobody sticking up for me. But now what's great is young people got more brains than I had when I was 16, 17, 18. And they go, and actually, I want to do this with my friend. Actually, I've got a friend who's a director and I want to do it with them. Actually, I only want to make this the way I want to make it. And when you know what to ask for, you might get it. And on that bombshell, I must leave you. Thank you very, very much.